The Four Noble Truths lie at the heart of Buddhist philosophy and practice, offering profound insights into the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. These teachings, first introduced by Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha, serve as a guide for understanding the human condition and how to transcend the inevitable suffering that is part of life. For those seeking spiritual enlightenment, these truths provide a roadmap that leads to a state of peace, wisdom, and liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth known as Samsara. The first noble truth is often referred to as the truth of suffering, or dukkha. This truth acknowledges that suffering is an inherent part of the human experience. It is not limited to physical pain or obvious forms of distress, but extends to more subtle forms of dissatisfaction that permeate our lives. Dukkha encompasses the anguish of birth, aging, illness, and death, the inability to hold on to what we desire, and the constant fluctuation of our emotions. Even when we experience moments of happiness, there is always the underlying uncertainty and fear of losing it. The Buddha's recognition of suffering is not meant to be pessimistic, but rather an honest assessment of life's impermanence and the nature of human experience. The second noble truth, the truth of the cause of suffering, identifies the root cause of suffering. Craving or attachment. It is our constant desire for pleasure, comfort, and security, as well as our aversion to pain and discomfort, that leads to suffering. This craving is not limited to material things, but also includes attachment to our identities, beliefs, relationships, and even the expectation of happiness. The Buddha teaches that our attachment to transient experiences creates a sense of insecurity, and when these things inevitably change, we experience suffering. The desire for permanence in an impermanent world is at the heart of much of human distress, and breaking free from this craving is key to liberation. The third noble truth is the truth of the end of suffering, or nirodha. This truth offers hope, revealing that it is possible to transcend suffering. By letting go of craving and attachment, one can reach a state of liberation known as nirvana. Nirvana is not merely an absence of suffering, but a state of profound peace, clarity, and freedom. In this state, individuals are free from the cycle of birth and death, no longer bound by the desires and attachments that perpetuate suffering. The Buddha's message here is one of possibility. Suffering can end, and it is through understanding the nature of craving and attachment that we can begin to free ourselves from the suffering that has plagued us for lifetimes. The fourth noble truth, the truth of the path to the end of suffering, provides a practical framework for achieving liberation. This path is known as the Noble Eightfold Path, a set of ethical and mental practices that guide individuals toward wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The Eightfold Path is divided into three core elements: wisdom, right view and right intention; ethical conduct, right speech, right action, and right livelihood; and mental discipline, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. By following this path, individuals gradually reduce the mental defilements that bind them to suffering, cultivate qualities such as compassion and equanimity, and eventually attain the freedom of nirvana. The Four Noble Truths are not merely theoretical concepts. They are meant to be practiced and experienced. The Buddha encouraged his followers to investigate these truths in their own lives through meditation, mindfulness, and ethical behavior. The realization of the Four Noble Truths is not just intellectual understanding, but a lived experience of transforming one's relationship to suffering and the world. In today's world, the teachings of the Four Noble Truths are especially relevant. We live in a time where material wealth and external success are often equated with happiness. However, many people still find themselves overwhelmed by stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction, even when outward circumstances seem favorable. The Buddha's insights into the nature of suffering and its cause are an antidote to the discontentment that pervades modern life. By recognizing the impermanence of life and the futility of attachment, we can begin to live with greater awareness, compassion, and peace. Ultimately, the Four Noble Truths offer a pathway to liberation from suffering. They guide us to see beyond the surface of our desires and fears, and to awaken to a deeper understanding of the nature of life. Through this understanding, we can cultivate inner peace, transcend the limitations of craving, and experience the freedom of living in harmony with the world as it truly is.